Good morning, welcome to Morning Review. This is Kim Watson speaking on Tuesday, 24th of November. Looking at the Eurodollar first, and as you see, yesterday we end up having a second little bounce into that supply area. First one just sort of air kissed, second one certainly caught it, giving us a divergence on the 4 hourlies. Now we've got the weekly pivot above us, which could see us break the sort of this little trend line and push up towards that area this morning. It's just got to get really through this Audi 50. I mean, it's done it now. Really needs to get back through it, which there is a possibility now. It has tested this 50 before, almost immediately after breaking it. So there's no absolute certainty that it'll hold it. What we have also above us is the weekly pivot yet to be touched. So there is a potential we could break to the upside there. And say a break of these highs here may just trigger that move up to the daily R1. Right, okay, and maybe beyond. Right, then let's look at the pound. From daily picture, it was said yesterday, bearish pivot swing. It did continue selling off. It had a bit of a bounce. It was late on in the afternoon. We couldn't hold on to it. Sold off again, just as the euro did. But again, we've seen this sort of move through the Asian session the last 12 hours or so, or just under 12 hours. We've seen this sort of 3-bar move up, a 4-hourly pivot swing there, and a bit of follow through. So whether or not it can continue, again, it's got the weekly pivot above us. So there is the possibility that we could see some movement there. There was also a bit of divergence in the RSI here on the 4 hourlies as well. So again, similar-ish picture. Only thing is, it's certainly weaker than the euro in its move. It hasn't got yet back towards its Audi 50, which is pretty key. Obviously, with cable, we got the financed update on Wednesday, which I think the markets are pretty much sitting there waiting for. Okay, if we can get any sort of wiggle on this morning, it's quite difficult to read at the moment. Maybe on a retrace, we could push up to the R1s, back up to yesterday's highs, maybe up to that weekly pivot. But it does look the weaker of the two European currencies, majors. Looking at the dollar yen. Now it's diverged at the highs there on the dailies. Said yesterday we've seen a sell-off, but it's just consolidation as much as anything else. Little blip yesterday again through the Asian session, but that's moved back the other way come midday and stayed down that way. Now we have got a few areas we could be chasing through, but it's already hit the weekly pivot there. I'm just looking through, and really it's just in this quite tight I say relatively tight range. Overall pips from this sort of move. So only around about 60 pips range that we're sitting in. At the moment, it looks like it's it's putting lower highs in, lower lows. It does look relatively weak, but it's already hit the daily pivot. It's pretty close to the S1. A break of these lows could see us push on further, but it's pretty pinched on the pivots there, not quite as yesterday, but may just hold within this range. Aussie dollar. Let's look at the bigger picture here. So yesterday came off on that sort of through the midnight candle. It just didn't get anywhere near the same again as the likes of the euro, but did push up, and it's holding up again at the moment. It's already done its weekly pivot, daily pivot. It's a difficult one. Any sell-off on this trend line is a trend line selling through. May see us coming through to back down towards yesterday's lows and maybe the S1. At the moment, most of these markets are looking effectively bullish against the US dollar. And finally, the Canadian dollar. So it saw this big spike in the Canadian dollar yesterday, back up to the highs at one stage. And then we saw oil price, the OPEC's decision to Saudi Arabia's decision to help stabilize oil prices, and we saw the the shoot up in oil prices and the price of the Canadian dollar rather retreated back down towards its weekly pivot. It's just a fraction away from it at the moment. Could see a continuation of this downward side. We've got lower highs sort of put in here, not necessarily confirmed. We haven't had a close below the lows there, but certainly made a new low, and it looks quite possibly we could see, as I say, the weekly pivot there. There is the untouched daily pivot above, which has a reasonable probability, but probably a difficult position of running back through all the resistance of the key moving averages there. Quick look at oil where it is at the moment. If it can come up quick enough, it's that was the move yesterday. We saw it fly up after the Saudis mentioned they'd hold it. It did come back after a while. The news worked it out. It was already in a bit of an upward trend at that point, and it's looking like it's moving back towards the sort of early mid 40s there at the moment. It has its daily pivot below, so again, it could you could see a sell-off at some point and then move back to that level, which would weaken the Canadian dollar accordingly, and maybe see that work its way back to its pivot. Okay, news-wise today, we've got this morning, we've got the German business climate comes out at 9 o'clock. It's not a big mover, but it may create a little bit of volatility for anyone following the Aussie dollar. There's the Reserve Bank of Australia Governor Stephen speaking at 9:05, due to speak about issues in economic policy at the Australian Business Economist annual dinner. Now, it could create a bit of volatility for the Aussie at 9:05 there. At 10 o'clock, we've got the inflation report hearings. Now, this is the Bank of England Governor and the members testifying in front of the Parliament's Treasury Committee. Again, some volatility expected there, although that report's already been released. So it may just create an extra bit of volatility if any different spin comes onto it. In the afternoon, we got the US GDP. It's the prelim, which ironically is the second figure, not the first one. Second release, but there is quite a marked change expected from the first numbers. They've got more beans to count than a lot of us, so there's quite an upward revision from 1.5% last time to 2% this time. So it's expected quite a bit more growth forecast there. So could see some volatility around 130. And then rest of the time, 3 o'clock is the consumer confidence, which is a smaller moving bit of data later on. But that's it for me. That's it for the news. And I'll be back in the morning. Bye for now.